ओम नमो ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
ओम नमो
ओम नमो
भगवते
भगवते
वासुदेवाय।
वासुदेवाय।
ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
ओम
ओम
नमो भगवते
भगवते
वासुदेवाय।
ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय।
ओम
ओम
नमो
नमो
भगवते
भगवते वासुदेवाय।
नारायणं नमस्कृत्यं
नारायण
नारायणं
नमस्ते।
नमस्कृतं
नरं चैव नरोत्तमं
परम
नरं चैव
सत्तर
नरोत्तमं
देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं
दीपं
देवीं सरस्वतीं
सत्तं
व्यासं
ततो जयमुदीरयेत्।
ततो
ततो
जय
जयमुदीरयेत्।
नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु
नष्टप्राय
अष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु
नित्यं भागवत सेवया
नित्यं
नित्यं
भागवत सेवा
भागवतसेवया
भगवति उत्तमश्लोके
भगवती
भगवति
उत्तमश्लोके
उत्तमश्लोके
भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी।
भक्ति भवति
भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी।
Reading from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 18, title Conclusion, the Perfection of Renunciation. And today's verse is verse number 22. Yattu Krishnavat ekasmin
यतु यतु कृष्णं पत् एकस्मिन्
karyasaktam ahetukam
कार्यसक्तं
कार्यसक्तम्
हेतुकम्
अहेतुकम्
attavarthavat alpam cha
अत्ववर्त
अत्वार्थवद् अल्पं च
tattamasam urdhatam
तत्तामसम्
समं
उदाहृतम्।
Yattu Krishnadvat ekasmin
यत्तु
यत्तु
कृष्णवद्
कृष्णवत्
एकस्मिन्
एकस्मिन्
karyasaktam ahetukam
कार्यसक्तम्
कार्यसक्तं
अहेतुकम्
हेतुकम्
अतर्वार्थवत् अल्पं च
अतर् अतफकं भक् अल्पं च
तत्तामसम् उदार्तम्।
तत्तामं समम् उधत्तामं
यत्तु कृष्णाद्वत् एकस्मिन्
यत्तु
यत्तु
कृष्णवद् एकस्मिन्
कार्यसक्तम् अहेतुकम्
कार्ये
कार्यसक्तं
सक्तम् अहेतुकम्
अतवर्थवत् अल्पं च
अथवार्थवद् अल्पं च
तत्तामसम् उदार्तम्.
तत्तामसम् उदाहृतम्।
Any Prabhuji would like to lead?
यत्तु कृष्णवद् एकस्मिन्
यत्तु कृष्णावत् एकस्मिन्
कार्ये सक्तम् अहेतुकम्
कार्यसक्तम् अहेतुकम्
अतत् अतत्वार्थवद् अल्पं च
अतवर्थवत् अल्पं च
तत्तामसम् उदाहृतम्।
तत्तामसम् उदार्तम्.
यत्तु कृष्णवद् एकस्मिन्
यत्तु
यत्
कृष्णवद्
कृष्णावत्
एकस्मिन्
एकस्मिन्
कार्यसक्तम् अहेतुकम्
कार्ये सक्तम्
कार्यसक्तम्
अहेतुकम्
अहेतुकम्
अतत्वर्थवद् अल्पं च
तत्त्वार्थवद् अल्पं च
अतवर्थवत् अल्पं च
तत्तामसम् उदार्तम्
तत्तामसम्
तत्तामसम्
उदाहृतम्।
उदार्तम्. Thank you very much. Word by word meaning. Yat, that which.
yet that
That
which
which
Tu, but.
to
to
but
Krishnavat,
Krishnavat
Krishnavat
as all in all.
as
and
all in all
Ekasmin,
ekosmin
in one.
in one
Karya
Karye, work.
work
कार्य work
Saktam, attached.
Saktam
सक्तम attached
Ahetukam,
अहेतुकम
Ahetukam
without cause.
without
without
cause
Atatva arthavat,
अतत्व
atat
अर्थ
about
without knowledge of reality.
without knowledge of reality
Alpam,
Alpam
अल्पम
very meager.
very
very
meager
Cha, and.
cha and
Tat, that.
that
that
Tamasam,
Tamsam
tamasam
in the mode of darkness.
in the
in the
mode of
mode of darkness
Udhartam
Dhartam
udartam
is said to be.
is said
to be.
Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Swami Prabhupada ki jai. And that knowledge
And that
and
knowledge
that knowledge
by which
by
by
which
one is attached to one
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 is
is
attached to
kind of work
kind of work
as the all in all
as the all
as
in
all
all,
in all,
without knowledge of the
without,
truth,
without knowledge of
without
the
knowledge of the truth,
which is very meager,
and which
which
is very meager,
is said to be in the mode of darkness.
is
is
said
said
to
to
be
be in the mode of darkness.
Any Prabhuji or Mataji would like to read the purport by His Divine Grace? A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai.
The knowledge of the common man is always in the mode of darkness or ignorance, because every living entity in conditional life is born into the mode of ignorance. One who doesn't develop knowledge through the authorities or scriptural injections has knowledge that is limited to the body. He is not concerned about acting in terms of directions of scripture. For him, God is money, and knowledge means the satisfaction of bodily demands. Such knowledge has no connection with absolute truth. It is more or less like the knowledge of the ordinary animals, the knowledge of eating, sleeping, defending, and mating. Such knowledge is described here as the product of the mode of darkness. In other words, knowledge concerning the spirit soul beyond this body is called knowledge in the mode of goodness. Knowledge producing many theories and doctrines by dint of mundane logic and mental speculation is the product of the mode of passion, and the knowledge concerned only with keeping the body comfortable is said to be in the mode of ignorance.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Let's all chant together. Agyana timirandasya jnananjana shalakaya chakshurmritam yena tasmai Sri Gurave namo Sri Chaitanya manobhistam stapitam yena bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamaiham dadati swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shivatapada Kamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Shagana Lalita Sri Vishakha Bitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Pusavana Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpataru Vaishya Kripa Sindhu Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namo Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivash Adi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare
Hare
Hare
Rama,
Rama
Hare
Rama
Rama,
Rama
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 Rama,
Hare
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 Hare.
लीलाचल निवासाय नित्याय परमात्मने बलभद्र सुभद्राभ्यां
Balavodra Jagannath
Jagannathaय te namo. So thank you so much for joining this wonderful Sangha. And here in the 22nd verse, which is following the 20th and 21st verse, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is explaining the knowledge of the different kinds of people. In the 20th verse, the Supreme Personality of Godhead spoke about what are the qualities of knowledge in mode of goodness. When a person is embodied in mode of goodness, how his knowledge is. And then in 21, Lord talked about how the knowledge of a person in the mode of passion is. And today, in the 22nd verse, which is just after 20 and 21, Lord is speaking about what is the kind of knowledge of a person who is in the mode of passion, ignorance. Tamasam. Tamasam means so we have three modes, right? We have sattvic, mode of goodness, rajasic, mode of passion, and tamasic, mode of ignorance. So tamasam, as you're seeing here, tamasam. So here, Lord is explaining this in a very unique way. Lord is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He is the brightest of everybody. And here he explains. But just to give a background, in the 20th verse, Lord talked about the knowledge of a person in the mode of goodness. In that mode of goodness, the person sees everybody as part and parcel of the Supreme. He sees a human being, a goat, a chicken, a fish, a cow, a bull, to be part and parcel of the Supreme. He believes, the person in the mode of goodness believes that these are all part and parcel of the Supreme, and he sees everybody as one, as the descendant of the Supreme. And that's why there is a element of compassion. There is an element of purity in terms of relationship. In the next verse, 21, Lord talked about the mindset of a person in the mode of passion or rajasic. In the mode of passion, the person sees that person as belonging to that particular sect or outline or civilization. And here, Lord is saying, in the mode of darkness, in the mode of ignorance, what is the knowledge like? So when you think about, we're talking about knowledge in ignorance, right? So what is that? Because it's counterintuitive, right? When you talk about knowledge, there is a profound element of non-ignorance in there. But here Lord is talking about how a person who is in the mode of darkness, his knowledge is. And there he says that Krishnavad, that in all, ekasmin, in one, and then he says, uses the word ahetuki, ahetukam, that without cause. You might have heard this verse, the word ahetuki, in relation to how a person should be unmotivated for devotional service. He should not expect anything from bhakti. But here, ahetukam is used without cause. So if you look at the translation, which is essentially the culmination of tamasam uh, and the knowledge of a person who is in the mode of ignorance, he is attached to one kind of work as all in all, without knowledge of the truth. And which is very meager. Meager means alpam. Alpam means he only looks at a very narrow way, very meager. Meager means very narrow way. You might have heard of little knowledge is dangerous. You might have heard about things wherein a person is said to be having 360-degree view. But think about a person who is only having a 10-degree view. He only looks at that alpam, very meager, and without the knowledge of the reality. When you look around, when you look at the 360-degree view, you'll have a more broadened knowledge. But a person who is in the mode of darkness, he can only see very little. And in that very little, he has a very low mindset, low IQ, because he's only focusing on that particular angle, which is very. So the classic example given is, you see there are 5 or 6 blind men here, or they have put an ignorance idea into their head. And one person who is blind, he is looking at the tail of an elephant and he is saying it is rope. Alpam, he has a very narrow view that the tail is a rope. A person who is looking at the portion of the body around the belly area of the elephant, he thinks it's a big wall, because he can see no more beyond the perception of a wall. And the person who is around the leg of the elephant thinks that it is a tree, because it looks like a huge stem. And a person around the ear thinks that this flap of the ear is like a fan. And the protuberance in the front of the elephant is very sharpened, and it is looking like a spear, because the person is feeling that it's a spear. And then the lower portion of the trunk, person is thinking it's a snake. So a person who is in the mode of darkness has a very unique view. And that view, Krishna is saying, Alpam. It's a very view, and he is atatva arthavat. That means he is without the knowledge of the reality. He is not thinking that it's an elephant. He is thinking that's a wall or a tail or a rope or a spear or a wall without the knowledge of the reality. And that is six blind people. When they see elephant from six different angles, they look at the elephant as six different things. So it's in the mode of darkness. So a person who is in the mode of darkness is actually thinking the elephant to be a rope or a wall, and whatever little angle he thinks about. So this is a paradox. We're talking about the content as knowledge, and we're talking about knowledge of ignorant people. This is how the ignorant people think, that little knowledge is dangerous, and when the little knowledge is overpowering in this age of Kali, in this age of quarrel and hypocrisy, the knowledge is very little. Everybody is in the mode of darkness. You see, when the darkness sets in, people want to linger in small pubs or bars where it is often dark. And in this age of Kali, the people who are tamasic, they believe in they want to be in darkness. They were fond of darkness. And yattu krishnavat ekasmin, there is only one thing in reality, so to consider one part of reality. So they uh, Krishna is multidimensional. This beautiful world is 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 multifarious. There are so many things to look at. When you look at a car, some people look at the mileage, some people look at the beauty of the car, some people look at the reliability of the car. There are around 20 aspects of car to look at, but a person in the mode of ignorance only looks at that little thing as the one thing, and he just gets the car in a very impulsive manner. But after some time, he realizes that this car has so many features, but reliability is a feature this car is missing, and then he gets into trouble. So, to have that narrow mindedness is a feature of tamasic people, the people in the mode of ignorance. And there are many people in this world who are of this category, because Kali Yuga, or the age of Kali, the age of quarrel and hypocrisy, is the time when most of the people have that mindset. They want to stay within the confines of this local group or local view without really having access to many different angles. And that is the reason why it is mentioned that when a company or an organization is filled with people from different cultures, different civilizations, it brings a 360 view of the outcome of the projects or programs they run, and that is why they 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 flourish, because they bring in fresh sense of ideas and concepts, and not just that narrow-minded view of a particular thing. And that is why we need to collaborate, and that's why Krishna consciousness is all about this view of collaboration. When you mingle with Krishna consciousness with different people have a different viewpoint towards Krishna, towards the love for Krishna, towards the the bhogas which is offered to Krishna. And with that, and there are 8.4 million species, and 8.4 million species have are part and parcel of the Supreme, and the person in the mode of goodness sees them as the descendant of our Supreme Father, and they treat all of them with nicety and with compassion and with love, without any discrimination to anyone. And that is the reason why all our acharyas have professed that whenever there is that element of ignorance, we should fill that ignorance with so much of transcendental knowledge that we get lighted, because knowledge is considered to be light. And when this knowledge is overpowering the person who is ignorant, who is in mode of darkness, he is enlightened. And that's the reason why Louis Pasteur has said, little of science, if you do little about science, you think there is no God. But when you go deep into science, Louis Pasteur says, immersion in science brings one back to God. And that is exactly what happened when they were trying to break the particle to electron, neutron, proton, and break it further, break it further, break it further. They go deep into the subject matter of physics and physics and physics. And finally, they couldn't break it further. And finally, that last particle, the scientists named it as God particle, because if you do too much into something and you get a full view of the effect, then it's awesome. And that's why they say little knowledge is dangerous. When we do not have our mirrors well aligned, when we don't know who is in our blind, when we drive, we are prone to accidents. But when all our eyes and ears are open, then we do not meet with an accident, because we are always alert. So a person in mode of goodness sees everybody to be part and parcel of the Supreme, and that's why he's a friend of everyone. But a person who is very narrow-minded is very ignorant. And Krishna says the ignorance is because of the darkness he is in, and unless a person wants to get himself out of the ignorance by virtue of the light which is filtered onto him, which should be filtered onto him through knowledge from a bona fide source, he will continue to be in that. So a person who is in mode of passion, he is very much staying with the past, and he doesn't think about where to go. But in this age where we have so much of access to the scriptures, where we have our acharyas who are professing that this place is very much temporary. Anything can be taken away from us. They say life is a preparation, death is examination, and no one knows the examination date. Why are we so attached to whatever we have? Why do we want to cling on to whatever funds we have, or whatever houses we have? And that is essentially is the cause of all issues in our life. And that is where the tamasic person always thinks about those things, and he never goes away from it. So he's always in darkness. There are 8.4 million species of 900,000 aquatics, 2 million trees and plants, 1.1 million insects, 1 million birds, 3 million quadrupeds, 400,000 human species, totaling to 8.4 million species. And he doesn't see everybody to be equal. And and that is exactly where some of the other faiths, when Srila Prabhupada was having a conversation with one of the priests from a different movement, for them, the soul of an animal is inferior to the soul of a human being, and that gives them the license to kill them and consume them. And that's where Srila Prabhupada vehemently mentioned that in eyes of the Supreme, the souls of individual species, whether it's a human being or a goat or a chicken, are identical, and God loves the human being as good as other animals. And when you cannot create life, you have no right to take away life. And that is why tamasic people are on the rise, because they think that if they have the power in this world, they can consume anything, and they they kill them, and with cruelty they consume them. And that is the nature of tamasic mindset people, because they do not consider the other species to be part and parcel, and they consider them to be inferior. And that is where Krishna consciousness teaches us that everybody is a part and parcel of the Supreme, and we should behave with all of them nicely and protect them as much as possible. So, here in this verse, the person with tamasic mindset, he doesn't have the knowledge of the reality. He has a very narrow view, exactly like a blind person who was looking at the ear of the elephant and was considering to be a flap or a fan, and he can think. So he doesn't have the knowledge of the reality, and he has a very meager impression of the thing. And that is why in this age, anytime we step out, we have to make sure our phones are right, it's fully charged, our car is filled with gas, and there is so many things we have to be cognizant about. And likewise, scriptures say that a person who is only focused on himself and doesn't think about the Supreme and the devotees of the Supreme, and do not live in a coexistent manner, he often is focused on very selfish, egoistic attitude, and we have to shun them. So the purpose of all this discussion we're doing is often when Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is speaking, and we try to discuss each of these, and it goes into our ear, it goes into our heart, it cleanses us, because it gives us an opportunity to think in a 360-degree manner, because Krishna is focused in giving Bhagavad Gita in a very systematic, in the modes of material nature, how the modes interact, and in a very scientific way. And more we hear this in the association of devotees like we are doing right now. It gives us a lot of good, and it cleanses us from all the anarthas we have inculcated through the upbringing, because we have all been upbringing through various different ways, and we all have some impurities we have picked up in our day-to-day life. And this is an opportunity to attempt to cleanse, because Krishna is telling the traits of a tamasic person who is in the mode of darkness. And once the tamasic person is injected with light of knowledge, the darkness is gone. And we should all try to enlighten each of us with ample light in our lives, so that the darkness goes away and we can live in a very blissful manner. So with that, I'd like to end here. I'd like to hear if you have any question or comments. Thank you so much for your kind attention. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
Any comments, Prabhu? Any thoughts about today's verse?
Probably good example, but that blind people went to see the elephant. That example, because they are blind, right? So their mind is limited. So they cannot explain what is the elephant is. But it's not their fault.
Right.
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 So if you correlate with that, so everybody in this world is not born with the same knowledge or power.
Mhm.
So their ability is also limited.
Right.
So accordingly, they can also judge, or they can also view with their accordingly their knowledge will also be limited. Right. So we cannot blame them also.
Right.
But the tamasic that example, yes, that is true. But this way is when a person or a living being's ability is limited by birth or by whatever, so we cannot blame them. That's my point.
Right. Yes. So the point Prabhuji is raising is the lack of the challenging life of blind. Here, the blind is compared with darkness, because a person who is blind, he is not seeing the light. For him or her, it is, we cannot blame them because they are unable to think. But in this world, we all, some of us, do not have that deformity, do not have that challenge. But in spite of that, we choose to be blind. Most of the time, if you look at Duryodhan, for example, Duryodhan was a very capable person. Duryodhan was very knowledgeable as well. But when it came to the war, he was very much biased in terms of, taking the weaponry from Krishna, all the Akshoni Sena, and he by crook he tried to burn the Pandavas. So he was blind with the eye, actually. So the example is not about the blind man. The example is about the sense of darkness we all have. We all have sense of darkness for our wealth. We want to protect it. We have a blindness for our kids. We uh, unusually love them, and we have special liking for so many things. And because of those individual priorities, we often put a blind eye to others. So it is in that context, yes, we cannot, because they are blind in this example, and they cannot reckon, or they do not have the right sense, object perception to detect. But we, even if we are not blind physically, often we lead a blind life in terms of the way it is being mentioned in Bhagavad Gita, that we do not treat every human being the same. We all are born with a precondition in our lifestyle, our in various different places in India. You might have seen there is a differentiation. There is a caste differentiation. There is quota. There is this and that. So our upbringing has not been perfect, and this is where the spiritual knowledge, Krishna 18.22, through that is trying to put some light. And that is where we, having eyes, cannot fathom that Krishna is telling us. And this tamasic mindset is in the mind. Once we choose to change it, we can, but we choose not to do it. It's not as if Duryodhan, in that example, was not knowledgeable. Duryodhan was always, he was given counsel by Bhishma Pitama. He was given counsel by Vidur. But with Vidurji, he abused Vidurji, and Vidurji left. So it is not as if he was not given the knowledge. We having the knowledge, often what happens is, once, that's what Louis Pasteur said, when you get into science, we think that the science is a very bright thing, and we are trying to create something, and we have that ego. And that's the reason why the people with PhDs and so many things, who have little knowledge, they would not like to believe in God. But as they go deeper and deeper into deeper, like Abdul Kalam did, he read Bhagavad Gita. So when we have a full 360-degree view of the thing, we tend to appreciate. But when we are very focused on our job or on our this thing, and we try to look at the narrow angle, we tend to be blind. But thank you for the comment, Prabhu. Was that all right?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Any other comments, Prabhu?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, Prabhuji, as Prabhupada mentioned in the purport, I mean, the one who is mode of ignorance, he has knowledge, he always thinks about the body. Basically, he doesn't idea about what is soul, and right, he always uh, involved in these four activities, mating and defending, right, all these four activities.
Mhm.
But Prabhuji, with our sadhana, right? I mean, it's very difficult to, because our ultimate goal is to attain the Krishna Prema, okay, right? And whatever sadhana we do, Prabhuji, I mean, what I feel, it's very difficult. I mean, in this age of Kali Yuga, we need something Ahituki mercy, Prabhuji. Without that mercy, it's very difficult to, to realize about the spiritual things, right? And also, there is one verse where Krishna mentioned, right? Until unless we don't have any sins, then we don't have that determination, okay? If you have sins, then you won't have the determination to do bhakti, okay? So we need, Ahituki bhakti, and also Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is the incarnation of both Lord Krishna and Radharani. So he mentioned in Sikhyastamam also, right? I mean, uh, Lord has given all the, like, Lord has all the names, okay, and Lord has put all his powers in his names, right? And still we are such, our luck is not good. I mean, we are so unfortunate that we don't realize that names, that Lord has put all the energies in his names, okay. So, and what I'm thinking, I mean, we have to associate more into the devotees, right? And we need that mercy, Prabhuji. Until unless we have that mercy, it's very difficult to realize about the bhakti. Yeah. That's
Mm.
something I want to say.
No, you touched on two or three things, Prabhu. You talked about this one, the knowledge of eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. This is exactly what animals do. That's what Srila Prabhupada is saying. How are we different from ordinary animals who only want to eat? That's why they want to find a prey so they can kill and eat. They sleep after eating, and whenever they're attacked, they defend, and they end up doing mating. This is all everybody does: eating, mating, sleeping, and defending. The one where we are different from this is we have the understanding of the spirit soul, which the animals do not. Some of the animals may be very bright, but generally speaking. And then you talked about ahetuki. Uh, Ahetuki means you have to be unmotivated devotional service. Most of the time, when we do devotional service, there is certain interest that, oh, hey, you will get some post, you'll get some position, you'll get some award. But ahetuki means unmotivated, without motivating yourself for certain advantage. You are trying to do love for Godhead. So there are two things. First, we have to be beyond animals, which is exactly what Srila Prabhupada is saying here, which I'm sharing right now. And then ahetuki means there should not be any hetu. Hetu means there should not be any desire to gain some position from our love. Love should, once the love is selfless, the love blossoms, whether it is husband, wife, brother, sister, in whatever capacity, the relationship blossoms without any self. And that's what you touched on. And the third thing you touched on is Lord has put his entire power in his name. Okay, like Sachin Tendulkar, he has put his entire aura of strokes in his cover drive. People fly to see Sachin Tendulkar bat in his eye for his cover drives or Azharuddin's flicks. So likewise, Krishna has put his everything in the name, which you mentioned. And that's where calling out his name is the most powerful. It's not as if only Krishna conscious people we call out the name. Christians, they call out Jesus' name. Muslims, they call out Allah's name. But in this age of Kali, our acharyas have said we need to call out to the name. And more, we gain a taste of calling out to the name of Hari, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Many times, 108 times is one round, 8 minutes, two round, three round. More and more we end up doing. We have a ruchi in the name. When we have ruchi in the name, we would like to do something for the Lord, because the Lord is a person and we are personalist. We are not impersonalist. We are not like Shunyavadi. For us, Krishna is not like a vacuum, some bindu somewhere. Krishna has a form, he has a Trivanga form, and Krishna is a Choka form in the form of Lord Jagannath, and so on and so forth. So Krishna has a form. You talked on that. And then, in order to really embody all of that, this understanding of we are beyond eating, mating, sleeping, and defending, Krishna has packed everything in the name. It's a very simple process. It's a simple process. But doing it day in, day out is not easy. It's a simple process, but it's not an easy process. And that is where you need the association of a guru. Every step of the way, we needed a guru. Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, had a guru, right? Krishna has had a teacher, and Sandipani Muni is Krishna's teacher, and Krishna and Balaram used to go to Sandipani Muni's house, and Ramji who came today in our temple, Ram Lalla, he had a teacher, and through that they are basically showcasing that they are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but even they also had a teacher. So that's the reason why we need that element of association, so that we get guidance. Even if we do not get direct interaction, but through his Vani, through his messages, he has spoken in the last 20, 30 years. Most of these gurus have become sannyasis in the last 20, 30 years. Through all these times, they have given those instructions. By having those association of the instructions, we can cleanse our life. So, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu commented about it, and you are mentioned about it. So it's very nice to hear about your summary, and that is the reason why uh, we have to focus on the on the on the power of the Harinam, and focus on so 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 why Harinam? It's very important. So if you see, if you can see my screen in Srimad Bhagavatam, it's very clearly mentioned. Krite yat dhayato Vishnu, tretayam yajito make, dwapare paricharyam, kalaudhat harikirtana. That means in the age of Satyuga, it was meditation. In Treta Yuga, it was Tretayam yajato make. That means yajna, sacrifices. Dwapare paricharyam. That means serving the Lord. In Dwapara Yuga, it was the serving of the lotus feet. And finally, Srimad Bhagavatam, which is written by Vyasadeva, which is called Bhagavata in Odia, in 12.3.52, it is mentioned, Kalautat Harikirtana. That means in this age of Kali, all these methods, the Jnana Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, they are not incorrect. They're incomplete. Kalautat Harikirtana. In this age of Kali, what you mentioned, Krishna has packed everything in his name. Harikirtana. Harikirtana is written very emphatically in yellow here. Srimad Bhagavatam, not spoken, but it's not, I'm not saying it. Neither Srila Prabhupada said it. Swayam Vyasadeva, who is the incarnation of the Lord, said it. Kalautat Harikirtana. So you can't eat loose motion medication for fever and think that fever will go away. Well, to have fever go away, you have to have fever medication. Likewise, in this age of Kali, Kalaudhat Harikirtana. And in Brihad Naradiya Purana, Srimad Bhagavatam is Amala Purana, right? Likewise, there are many Puranas. Brihad Naradiya Purana said, Harer Nama, Harer Nama, Harer Nama Kevalam, Kalau Naste, Ivanaste, Ivanaste, Gati Anyatha. In this age of quarrel and hypocrisy, there is no other way, no other way, no other way. 3 times it is spoken. Nasteva, 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 3 times. There is no other way, no other way, no other way for liberation without Harer Nama, Harer Nama, Harer Nama. And there are many references we can go. It's a separate topic. We can talk about it. But the focus is how to gain a taste of Harinam and how to keep doing it again and again and again. Initiating is one thing, and doing it again and again and again, maintaining it, doing some devotional service again and again, having that love for Godhead again and again is critical. Thank you so much. Any other comments, Prabhu?
And I was thinking that this was, I liked it a lot. So it basically touched upon like ignorance, right? What we are missing out, or what is our nature, how we are generally, which is kind of, I can correlate with that. And then basically talks about like they said Vishnumaya Sanchar, right? To see Krishna everywhere. I think that's what it is trying to say. And I think you talked about, which is not mentioned in this one, but you talked about is that means this nama japa, all these things is there, but at the same time also you need a guru or satsang, like kind of to get into that. Of course, there will be some people who even after all these things will not be able to correlate or do it, like blind men. But those who are awakened but blind, they may get awakened with this thing. But I'm just imagining how it would be like when they see, Krishna everywhere, right? It's like only the person who has attended that state or has gone near to that can basically, like, I don't have an experience, but I'm just trying to imagine, and I'm not able to still imagine, like, in a nicer way. But I think it's a nice one.
Yeah.
Nice verse.
Yeah. So thank you for your comment. Prahlad Maharaj was seeing Krishna everywhere. He wanted to challenge. His father wanted to challenge. Is Krishna is in the pillar? And he says, yes, Krishna is in the pillar. And he cut the pillar, and Hiranyakashipu, Krishna in the form of Hiranyakashipu, came out. That's a Puranic reference. It happened millions of years ago. But just to give an example, Gaur Gobind Maharaj, he was a pure Vaishnava in the ISKCON movement. He was a disciple of Srila Prabhupada. He's from Bhubaneswar. He was a Odia. He was giving a katha on Lord Jagannath and Srimati Radharani and how the relationship. And he was giving a katha, and then in Mayapur, and he went into trance, and then he left his body in that trance. So he, after Prabhupada, and it is referred by many senior sannyasis that Gaur Govind Maharaj finally used to see Krishna. He had his uh, deity called Gopalji. He used to see Gopal everywhere. And there are many, Srila Prabhupada, when he was leaving his body, he was translating Srimad Bhagavatam. The video is there in internet somewhere. And Bhakti Tirtha Maharaj, he had a cancer. One of his leg got amputed. And he was relishing kirtan with that pain. And he was about to leave his body. And he was relishing Krishna Katha. And there are many such examples where these devotees, after practicing again and again and again, waking up, having an austere life, leading a life, uh, they could see Krishna everywhere. And it's a practice, it's a science which is very well laid out. It's a sadhana. We all are practitioners, and some are ahead. Some people are even more ahead of us. but it's a journey, and more and more we practice, we could relish this more and more, and you will see Krishna everywhere, in an animal or a bird or anywhere, and you will have that sense of belonging. Uh, and in this is a beautiful world created by Him, and we can appreciate more and more once you understand this. Thank you so much. Any other comment? Okay, so let's end today's discussion here. And the 16th April is Ram Navami. There's a wonderful program which is planned, and you must be seeing all the information flyers. So more and more. Next Saturday we'll discuss 18.23, and this is the final chapter. So Krishna is summarizing once again all these things what Krishna is saying now. Krishna has spoken before. Now he's summarizing in the 18th chapter before Bhagavad Gita will end. That's why we are taking every verse and discussing it, because the importance is we can catch up if we have missed it. So if there is no other question, is there any other final question or comment? Okay, so let's end here. Let's pray at the lotus feet of all Vaishnavas by saying Vancha Kalpataru Vascha Kripa Sindhu Vacha Patitanam Pavanevya Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namo. Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Gaur Premanande Shla Prabhupada ki jai. Hari Bol. I'll end here. Hari Bol.
Hari Bol.